Thank you for joining us. We are here for the Creating Mental Wealth Show. My name is Sherry James. We have a passion for teaching the paradigm shift about going from mental health to mental wealth. We believe that everyone has the capacity to become mentally wealthy. And in studio today, we have the co-founder of the 2020 Lives Changed movement, Dr. Alexander.
Hello, Sherry.
Hello, I'm so excited to see you. I missed you so much.
It's been a big shift, I think.
It has.
Yeah.
And you look amazing as
You do
always.
as well. Thank you. In my favorite color.
Oh, thank you. I knew that. I must have felt that.
You felt it.
So tell me about this shirt, though, because I like
my shirt?
Tell me about this shirt.
So my son and I have joined team to kind of put out a couple of things, and this one is about anxiety, how people really feel all of this discombobulation, if that's a word, in their head, and feel like you're just kind of all over the place. So this was his, I guess, depiction of that.
Love it. As a person who struggles with anxiety, I will say
it's good. It's spot on. Well, thank you. I will let him know that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about this amazing program. So I know that when you and I met, you talked a lot about the emotionality of success, and you had this program, and it talked about preparing people for success, because we think it's all good. So you think it's good from a financial wealth perspective, you think it's good from a mental wealth perspective, and in a lot of cases that's not the case. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So the emotionality of success basically talks to people about the awareness that just because you're successful does not make you immune to emotional ups and downs. So cognitively and emotionally, how are you actually processing what it took for you to achieve that level of success, what it does for you to maintain that level of success, and what that looks like? Because we get instruction on financial management, like you were talking about. We get instruction on networking, branding, marketing, legal things, but rarely does anyone talk to us as we're preparing for whatever path we choose. Rarely do people talk to us about what it's going to take out of us emotionally to achieve that level of success. And then when we actually get in the place where we want to be, like, this is not all that I thought it was going to be.
Exactly.
Right? So I love talking to audiences about the emotionality of success, because very few people actually look at what it takes out of them. And I could talk on, but let's go.
I want to
because what ends up happening, people will do a disclaimer. Like, I really have no reason to be as upset as I am because my bank account says this, or I have this beautiful spouse and my kids are wonderful. We live in this great house, or I'm living the life that I said I wanted to live. It could be a minimalist lifestyle, right? But for whatever reason, they're feeling unsettled. And that's the space that we need to talk about. And you don't need a disclaimer if you're having a hard time. You don't need it.
I think that's interesting, especially now, post-pandemic, right? There's so many people who had big shifts in their lifestyle, working from home, being around their spouses and families, which in a lot of, you're like, that should be great, right? Don't you love being in the house with your full family all day, every day, without a break, right? I mean, how did COVID impact that? So from a success or, even a mental wealth perspective, how did the pandemic impact people's success, even if they were doing well?
It actually had an impact across the board, from the smallest people in the household to the oldest people in the household. What we realized during the pandemic is that we really don't know each other. We know each other around bedtime. We know each other around morning time, but we don't really know the people that function during the daytime. So parents were having a tough time with their kids, spouses were having a tough time with each other, and friends were having a tough time with each other because we're all working from home. Why can't we get together for lunch? Why aren't we talking on the phone all day like we used to? So it was a huge hit to our psyches when you think about it in terms of what the pandemic did, because although we're hunkering down in the household, all of these things are going on outside, which we have no control. That was what a lot of people were struggling with. We had no control, but also what's going to happen tomorrow? Like, I'm at home with my family today, but if they call me back in to work, I have kids, right? Or I have someone that I'm taking care of. All of these things began to shift at a moment's notice, and that was creating havoc on us.
So from a mental wealth perspective, so we talk a little bit about things that are mental wealth deposits, things that are mental wealth withdrawals. I think from the pandemic's perspective, we had no idea what our deposits were, right? We felt like we were constantly being drawn from, we were giving, I know that I went to like 24, it seemed like 24-hour Zoom calls back to back to back to back. And so wherein before, we had a time for a break.
Right.
We'd leave for lunch. You could socialize with your coworkers. And so it almost is like the pandemic showed us how important
Dysregulated we were.
Yeah, how important our regulation of our own time was, right? Because we were like, oh no, we can just do back-to-back meetings for 8 hours. Who does that? We never did that before, right?
Right.
What are some positive things that you think happened as a result from a pandemic perspective? Like, the struggles being in the house with the family. What are some of the good things that came from
I think
it?
quite a few people took that time to reflect on how they were living their lives. Like really the pace that we were on, the number of people that we were exchanging energy with. I think we underestimate how much it takes out of us to actually balance the energy in a room. And so we had the time to take a step back. And then you did, like some families may have struggled, but a lot of families found a really awesome way to reinvent how they were functioning. We get so caught up in activities. We get so caught up in events and social events, all of these things that we were doing. Well, nobody was doing anything. So now let's get to know each other. So we went back to board games. We went back to puzzles. We went back to hiking, doing outdoor.
Having conversations with
having
each other.
conversations with one another, sitting down for dinner. Right. A lot of those things resurged because we got back down to the basics.
Right.
And the basics are really important for our foundation. And we were neglecting those because we thought we had to.
Absolutely.
During the pandemic, we realized, no, we actually didn't have to. That was a choice that we were making.
Right. And that it was a choice that we probably felt we had to make. We knew no different. It was what we were taught. We
were conditioned to believe we knew different. We were conditioned to accept a certain standard of living.
Ooh, that's good. I like that. That's a moment of silence to just.
We can.
Well, okay. So I want to know more about this emotionality of success.
Absolutely.
So, if I am, let's say I win the lottery tomorrow.
I want to be on your first person to call list.
I got you.
Thank you. I appreciate
I'll be like, what do I do with this money?
1% is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm easy. 1%.
Family members are like, wait a minute, wait. No, but so I just want to talk about this really quickly before we wrap. But I think if I were to win the lottery tomorrow and I would become amazingly financially wealthy and I feel like I have a good tribe of people that support and whatever, what are some things that might blindside me? Like, what are some of the things that I would not see coming when I go, especially like this instantaneous wealth, right?
So we would, under the emotionality of success, that would basically fall in the professional quadrant and the relationship quadrant. So there's some professional things that you would need to tend to make sure you're paying your taxes and organizing your financial profile appropriately. Okay. But in terms of relationships, we all know what money does to relationships. So you may find another dimension to the relationships that you have that you need to manage. And people try to do that solo when they really need to get some assistance from a professional on how to manage the changes that you're going to experience and how are you going to share with others or not share it with others.
Or not share with others.
Because I have a choice.
Yeah. Oh, man, I love it. I love it. Okay. So I'm going to ask you one more question. And this is going to be real tough. We're going to sneak this in before the commercial break. Okay. But then once you've set that boundary, how do you then hold yourself accountable to those measures, right? Because we'll say, okay, listen, financially I'm different, mentally wealthy I'm now, how do I manage those boundaries? Because people are going to go, that's not who you used to be.
So your profile is different, but who you are on the inside is not different. And that's one of the mistakes we make. We think that, if I've pulled myself up out of a situation, then instantaneously everything about me is going to change. And it is absolutely not, which is why I say get the professional assistance. Right. So your profile changes, but the depth of who you are is still the same. So if you were crossing boundaries before you got money, you're going to cross boundaries after you get money. If you were not secure before you got the money, you're going to be insecure afterwards. So you really do need to spend the time dealing with self. Use some of that money. Here we go.
Yes.
Another percentage of it.
Pay for your therapist.
Pay for your therapist. Pay for your therapist because it's necessary.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Well, when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the emotionality of success. We'll dig a little bit deeper into creating mental wealth and what that's all about. So we'll see you back in a second.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.
thank you for coming back. We are here with Dr. Stacia Alexander. We're talking about the emotionality of success and how it impacts our mental wealth. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Wow. So our first segment, I learned so much, and I've known you for several years. And so thank you for that wealth of information.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. So we talked about how success can kind of change our relationships and boundaries and accountability. Tell me a little bit more about how to prepare our families for that. And I'm going to take it personal. I'm going to talk about me, right? So let's say when this TV show gets picked up, I don't know, by the Oprah studios.
There you go.
When it gets picked up, because we're in the Oprah studio, so it has to happen.
It has to happen.
But when the show gets picked up, right, I will probably be, like you said, less accountable, less available. I will have less bandwidth to do the things that we do. So how do I prepare my family? Like, I know you said that I've got to have a therapist, because I do. You know, I have multiple ones. But how do I prepare my family? Like, how do I have those conversations? Like, hey, I may not be available to support you. You know, I may not be able to cook big meals for everybody every Sunday. So what do I do to make sure that my family is prepared for my upcoming success?
So you look at your family in layers. You have your nucleus, those who are in your immediate environment, and then you span out from there. So how much explanation do you need for those who are outside of here? But when you look at your nucleus, they should know what's going on with you at every stage of your development, right? So you're going to tell them, hey, it's looking really good. I'm on pace to get to this level. Just want to tell you what my capacity will be. Like, that's my favorite phrase right now. I'm at capacity. So this is my capacity now, but if I'm going back and forth to Atlanta or LA, my capacity may shift in terms of my role within the family. How on board are you with that? Like, giving them the space to say, no, I'm not doing that. Or, oh, I can't wait. You know, how can I help you, or what have you? And then how does this align with what you have? Because I don't expect your goals to stop just because I'm elevating in mine, right? But if you get to a point where it becomes tense between family members, especially within your household environment, because each of you has to manage that
it's
energy.
Just me and the cat, so I think
it's just me and the cat. Then you're good. The cat is going to go along. The cat is going to get in the little container, whatever, the kennel, y'all call it. But for families who are, you know, especially like working moms, working dads, they have kids in the household, or you are tag teaming on parenting, you do need to converse about what is happening with your career and not think that you can do it solo. And then that other person is just supposed to get on board and be okay with everything. It needs to be a conversation.
Got it. I think it's interesting because I say it's just me and the cat, but it is my son 14, right? And so he's going into high school this year, and
he doesn't want to be moving around and stuff.
He does not. He doesn't want anything different.
So part of your responsibility is putting things in place so that his movement is minimized. Right? That's part of your responsibility. And then when it comes time to, hey, sister so-and-so is going to come over here, or cousin is going to come over here. I already made arrangements for you to get your track meet on Friday. You got a doctor's appointment on Monday. You may need an assistant. Right? You still may need an assistant to take care of the nuances of what he needs on a day-to-day basis, but that's your responsibility. And you assure him that you're going to tackle that responsibility, whether you do it yourself or if you get somebody else to help you with it. And then the two of you can sit down and say, what is really important for me to show up at? Like, absolutely, where do you need me without a shadow of a doubt? What do I need to put on my calendar? And that gives him the space to say, Mom, okay, you know, the playoffs are this weekend. I love when you're in the audience or what have you. Or he may even say, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. So then you come back and say, okay, I will be here at this time. You still commit to your child and let them know where you're going to show up and show out.
I love that. I love that. It's funny because my son actually would prefer that I not show up or show out, which is why I do.
And that's why I'm going to tell you, I will be here with my t-shirt on. Taylor's mom. Chance's mom. I'll be here for everybody.
That's me too. And I think that's important, right? I think that's one of the reasons that our children are nervous about our upcoming success, right? Because they believe that it will take away from
But here's another point. When a parent is successful, that's a lot of pressure on the kids because they think they have to live up to that same level of success. And to some degree, I expect you to, because I've paved the way for you. So I'm not going to lie about that, total transparency. But if you don't, if you decide that you want to go another direction, that's fine too. But we have to have that conversation. Don't think proactively that you have to do all of this because I'm doing all of this. Because when you look at that, that's when you get to talking about depression, anxiety, suicide, because I don't think that I can live up to what you're doing. And my path is not your path.
Right.
My path was to make your path easier.
Right. But not
I took this path to make yours easier, but it doesn't have to duplicate my path.
Right. Yeah. If you remember when we did our testimonial videos for the 2020 Lives Change movement, Miles said, well, I feel like I have to be this because my mom is doing that. And I remember feeling like there was a visceral kind of gut punch. Like, no, baby, I don't want you to feel.
And what does that go under? Self-care, the emotionality of success.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? That's part of, that's what I'm talking about. Nobody prepares us for that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I looked at my parents and said, oh, they're in computers? Bet I won't do that. No, but you see what I'm saying? But it was still an understanding that because they went to college, nobody asked me, what are you going to do if you don't go to college? It was all assumed that I was going to college. I thought I knew everything going to college. You couldn't tell me that I didn't know everything. Then when I get in that room, I'm like, this sucks. Like, this is hard. Like, I can't, like the dialects in the college, it was people from all over. These kids were smart as heck. I came out at the top 10% of my class, but I go to college and I'm like, dumb, you know, it's just like, girl, you got to step up your game. I had never had to study for a test, but you get to college, you got to study for the test.
Yeah.
Nobody prepared me for all of that. It was just, go out there and make it happen. Yeah.
And it's interesting. We have a part of the Creating Mental Wealth curriculum that's focused just on university. And it's so interesting because the conversations that we have with the students, they say very similar things. We weren't ready for this. Not just mentally wealthy ready, but not even financially, like how to balance a checkbook, how to understand debits and credits and withdrawals. Like the university students are like, this wasn't a class and nothing that we talked about in our homes. And so if we're building those foundations, tell me what you want to tell me. It's something good. Tell me the secret. Yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you the secret. My next book.
Oh,
Sherry. 10 plus things.
okay.
I wish I'd known about mental health in college.
Oh, I love it. Yes. Okay.
It should be out by the time these knuckleheads go to school in August.
Oh, this year. Yay. I love it.
Yeah. And the reason being, after working on the campus and just reflecting on what I went through going to college, I realized that, okay, I wasn't prepared, but I'm working with these students and they weren't prepared either. What it looks like to leave home, the level of grief that kind of sits into your gut, and you're thinking, but this is what I wanted. I wanted to go away to college. Why am I so sad? Why? I do miss mom's bacon in the morning.
Oh, yes.
Even though she got on my nerves with the dancing every morning, I kind of like the pancakes that she cooked.
And they were free.
And they were free. And better yet, you mean nobody's gonna wash my clothes?
Oh,
that causes some extreme worry with people.
It really does.
Right,
Absolutely.
yes.
Like the toilet paper doesn't just automatically
It doesn't
appear.
automatically change.
Wow.
How does the toilet get clean?
Ooh.
What happens? Yeah. And so even broader than that, what happens? How do you handle anxiety? How do you handle finding your tribe? Spiritually, what are you doing? Relationships, drug addiction, all of these things, athletics, scholars. Scholars are a totally different subdivision of college, and nobody's telling them to function at that level consistently. What does that do to your mental health?
Yeah, it's hard.
At that level consistently, to come out of college with a 4.0, what does that do to you emotionally, cognitively, and emotionally?
I can't wait for this book. I'm
Neither
so
can
excited.
I am so excited. This is, I feel blessed to be able to write it and have such a broad understanding of because it's not rocket science.
Right.
It's just that nobody's talking about it.
Nobody's talking about it. And if nothing else, we'll go to break and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we come back. But if nothing else, that's one of the good things that came out of the pandemic. We're having conversations that we were not comfortable having before. We had the opportunity to stop and understand the impact of us.
It was having.
And so it's one of the good things that's happened. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back from break.
Good.
So we'll see you back here in a couple of seconds. We'll talk more about the emotionality of success. So we'll see you in a sec.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com to find out more.
Welcome back to the Creating Mental Wealth Show. We are having an amazing conversation with Dr. Alexander. She's teaching me more than I thought I even had space to still know about the emotionality of success. And so we talked about family, the impact of preparing our children for college and the emotions that they will kind of deal with when they go there. And making sure that they feel mentally wealthy when they are in college. And especially, I love that you talked about scholars because we expect our children to be scholars, right? I mean, we've groomed them to be that. And so I love that you have that focus on how do you make sure you're prepared for the stress and anxiety of this constant testing, also needing to have a social life. Right.
Balance.
And I will tell you I have two children in two different generations. With my daughter, who's 34 now, I did not prepare her for that, like, hey, you still got to study. Now I'm not going to be there with my thumb on your neck going, hey, you better study.
Right.
You have to do that yourself.
Right.
And so looking back, I think that what I was doing, I thought was a deposit into her mental wealth bank, right? Because I'm making sure that you're up on time, making sure that you study for a certain amount of time. But what that did is it made her unable to do that on her own for her first year, and she struggled. And so I learned that, 34 years ago, luckily for Miles now, I know now I'm starting to back off a little bit, right? And I'm letting him make his own decisions and trying to allow him to be more independent, even as it applies to building our financial wealth. So I engage him in our activities as much as he wants to be. He's found a love for photography, which is awesome. That gives him the opportunity just to help out and stay behind the camera, but also see what's happening and see the stresses. He sees me in the morning before, he sees me the night after. So I love that. I cannot wait for your book to come out. We're going to do a book tour. It's going to be awesome.
Oh,
I can't wait.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's talk more about kind of the business world and the business aspect of it. I know that I've heard of people who have had a very successful career and they're used to having a certain group of people around them, but then once they reach this next echelon, right? How they're still not prepared. It's almost like levels to it, right? And I know you mentioned quadrants, but is there a certain, like if you're a thousandaire, right? Like you're making 100,000 and you're doing it versus a millionaire. Like, is there a difference?
I think the higher your earning potential, the more isolation you're prone to because there are not as many people. There's not as many people in that bracket, if you will. And so you tend to be more particular about who you have in your midst. Now, you do have some people who make all of this money and they just let anybody around them because they don't want to take the time to really deal with what's going on with their lives. Like it's anytime I see people with a lot of people around them, I'm like, dude, go to counseling. But but it is, I think it's about who will challenge you to be a better person. Right, we always are seeking to evolve.
Absolutely.
Right, and so if you find that you have topped out of your friend group, not just financially, I mean in terms of emotional development, cognitively, how you handle your life, then you will find yourself associating with other people, but will you have as solid of a relationship with them? Right. That's what we're concerned about, is having those solid relationships. And we should be concerned about that because so many people operate on a shallow level. Right. They don't trust. They're afraid to actually commit to someone and get to know that person for who they truly are. Right. So I think there is some level of isolation as you elevate in your career field that you need to be concerned about. But that's why I tell everyone, if you have a physician, you go once a year for your checkups. You go to your dentist twice a year, your optometrist once a year. Then you have your hairstylist. I go twice a year to get this color. It does not come naturally. It doesn't come naturally, right? But do people have a therapist? No, they'll have a hairstylist or a barber, but they won't have a therapist. So then I look at them and say, why is your hair care more important than your mental health?
Wow.
Why? Why do you spend months looking for that perfect stylist? You go to your barber every Friday, get that edge up.
Right.
But you won't go sit down and talk to someone that's going to actually help you deal with the thoughts and the feelings that you're having. So I think if people will incorporate mental health beyond crises, they would see the benefit of actually sitting down and reflecting on who they are, what they want to do, and how they're living their lives.
And I think when you talked earlier about boundaries and setting those boundaries, it's important within those family groups that you are not sitting in place of a therapist. And I know that I've found myself, and I know others that have learned to do the same as a result of this pandemic, right? Where people are like, oh, what's going on with you? How are you doing? Like, I'm not your therapist, right? And so that's a boundary that you also have to make sure that you set, because people go, I don't need to have a therapist. I've got Sherry, right? Or I've got Dr. Alexander. No, you don't. No, you don't. Right?
No, you do
not.
No,
you don't. And so that's something I think from a mental wealth perspective, if it was
seeing the value of it,
you have to see the value of it, and you have to go to someone who is trained in that. I am not going to go ask the guy who's asking me for money on the corner here at 635 and 75. I'm not going to ask him for financial help. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm going to seek out a professional.
But you realize people go where they're comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, people go where they're comfortable. So that's why we go to grandmothers and preachers and friends and, sisters and things like that. We go where we're comfortable. And of course, we trust them to some degree to give us sound advice, which they can give us advice. But can they really tell us the core of the dysfunction? What is actually going on? What am I processing incorrectly? And understand that this is where we need to do the work. Like, you can sit and complain all day. And I tell my clients that, I tell my family that. When you choose to stay, whatever the place, mentally or physically, when you choose to stay, you lose the right to complain.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, because I just need to make sure that settles in my spirit. Say that.
When you choose to stay, you lose the right to complain.
Wow.
We're not going to just sit up and complain.
Right.
We're going to get that stuff out. And we're going to come up with some solutions, some options, some directions.
Have you been talking to my therapist? I feel like y'all are on the same page.
We probably went to the same school. Yeah, the same school as that. But that's what people do. When you call your girlfriend, 9 times out of 10, you are complaining about what's going on. You're not talking to her saying, hey, help me work this out and come up with a solution. I don't do that when I call my cousin about my husband. I ain't sitting up there saying, hey, how can I handle this situation? I'm like, girl, he did. That's it. I'm complaining. Right? So you're going to stay in that situation because the two of you are not coming up with a solution. So when people come to me, whether it's personal or professional, if you choose to stay in that place, that headspace, whatever, you lose the right to complain.
I love it. I love it. So tell us how to find you. I know that everyone's going to be looking for this book. Yeah. Everyone wants to get, more information. So
absolutely.
Tell us how we can find you.
I'm on any social media platform under Dr. Stacia Alexander. Just Dr. Stacia Alexander, any platform. And then you can go to my website, staciaalexander.com.
I love it. She made it nice and simple. I love it. I love it. Thank you for spending this time with us today.
Absolutely.
I am so blessed to have you a part of this.
Love our relationship. It's blossoming. I appreciate it.
It is blooming. It is. Blooming. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right. We will see you on the next episode of Creating Mental Wealth with Sherry James. Have a good one.